She is known as America's #1 small business optimizer. What she does is, and I think I'll sum it up in my way, she'll tell you how she does it in her way, but if you have a dream of being in business for yourself, she's going to help you create that team that will accomplish that dream, okay? And she's excellent at it, and that's why I've invited her here. So please welcome my friend, Melanie Benson Strick.
Actually, MySpace made me a heck of a lot of money. It was like the beginning of all social media. It's crazy. So thank you for having me here tonight. I'm really excited to be with you guys. And what we're going to do tonight is two things. First of all, I want to share with you what happened for me that caused me to go from a struggling, overwhelmed, somewhat broke entrepreneur with a really big dream to someone who was thriving and able to continue to leap 6 and 7 figures because I learned how to leverage myself. Does that sound interesting to anyone here tonight? Yeah?
Yes.
Anyone else relate to that? Okay, I got a little bit too much on my plate and not enough resources to get it all done. Just raise your hand, let me know where you're at here.
Yes.
The rest, this side of the room is totally cool, right? So here's what we're going to do. When we leave tonight, I want to do two things. I'm going to share my roadmap with you. I'm going to share what worked for me. I'm going to go really fast because Craig gave me 45 minutes. So we're going to get through a lot in a very short amount of time. But I want to help you see where some things may or may not be working for you in the way you've been running your business. Does anyone think they might have a couple areas they could do better to get better results for their business? Say yes if you can agree with that?
Yes.
All right, I know it's after dinner. Second thing we're going to do is I want to show you the step-by-step roadmap that I used and how you can put it into action so that you can start to create these same kind of leverageable results. Sound good?
Yes.
Say yes?
Yes.
All right, we're going to get some energy flowing in this room. So I want to share through my own story a little bit tonight what worked for me. Everybody always says, Melanie, how did you leap from making about $1,500 a month living in Los Angeles as a struggling entrepreneur who took the leap of faith and bailed out of a Fortune 500 company with the plan called I Have 4 Clients? Anyone want to take that road? Okay, that was not the smartest. If I was optimizing your roadmap, I would not suggest you do it that same way. But it was bold action, and it paid off because guess what? I had to figure out very quickly how to do what works and to stop doing what doesn't work. And the number one thing, the very first thing I had to do is I had to make a new decision. The decision I had to make was I had to be willing to get uncomfortable, and I had to be willing to optimize the way I ran my business. So let me take a step back. I want to paint a picture of what my life was like. Now normally if I had a big whiteboard, I would draw a picture of this very unhappy face with all of this activity going on. I was spinning my wheels with so much effort. 80%, 90% of my day was spent doing all these things that got very little results. And that is what most of us find leads us to overwhelm. A lot of activity, but we can't really figure out what at the end of the day we accomplished. Does anybody ever have that day? Is anybody having multiple days like that in a row? Well, when you're in the mode of being overwhelmed and you're at a place where the things you're doing are not paying off, it can be really overwhelming. And what I personally discovered was I was on the verge of wanting to give up. And I had one of those pivotal moments, you know those game-changing moments where you know what you're doing isn't working the way you're doing it, but you don't really know what will work better. And I sat down one day and I was looking at my bank account and I'm realizing I don't have enough coming in to pay the bills. And I called what I called the bank of Dad, because Dad was funding my dream at that point. And when I wasn't getting things working, I would literally pick up the phone and say, Dad, I'm so close. I need just a little bit more to cover things this month so I can make this all happen. And this was probably the 4th phone call to Dad in that 18 to 2 years period. And guess, my dad actually gave me a gift that day. And instead of saying, all right, how much do you need? He said, honey, do you think it might be time to go back and get a job? Who wants to hear that if you're an entrepreneur, right? Like that's the thing that's your worst fear is to like have to give up the dream and go back. So I was not willing to do that. And so I had to make a better decision. I had to make a decision to figure out what was it that was working for my peers who were making multiple 6 and 7 figures. But here was the caveat for me. And tell me if you share this with me. It wasn't enough to just make 6 figures. I actually wanted to do it and have a lifestyle. Who shares that dream? Okay. So what I realized is that working harder, and you might want to write this one down if you find that you work a lot of hours, working harder was not actually getting me any further along. I had to learn how to optimize my approach to greater success. Because this is ultimately what works. I studied and trained with and mentored with and basically went out and said, what is it that successful 6 and 7 figure business owners, and not just people who make 6 figures and then lose it, not just people who say they have 7 figures but work themselves to death all the time. What do 6 and 7 figure business owners do who are sustaining a life where they don't have to take their laptop with them on their trip to Hawaii? Where they don't have to call in every day and run their business from wherever they are. They really have a strategy that allows them to exponentially grow. Who here has a vision of exponentially growing your impact and your income over the next few years? Okay. So here's what this is about. That other guy, or woman, we could put many of us women who think we're superheroes do this all by ourselves. We try to get so much done and there's all this activity and very little revenue or results. What I found was that the path to being able to be that catalyst that could ignite lots of activity but not have to be in the hub of it, not be the bottleneck to my growth, was in learning how to leverage other people and systems and strategies that could help me exponentially grow. So there are actually a few different strategies when I'm optimizing someone's business that I work with. Tonight we're going to focus on just one of them because Craig mentioned to me that learning how to explode your growth and accelerate results with a team would be something that would be really valuable for you. So I'll make sure that I touch on a few other things along the way, but just know we're just going to cover one of them tonight. Now, why is this so important? Who here gets to spend enough time doing the things they love the most during their day? Hands, okay. So when we spend at least 80% of our time in our genius, here's what happens. It is the way in which not only can we exponentially grow our impact, but it energizes us. When we're burned out, it's oftentimes because we're trying to push rocks uphill and we feel completely overwhelmed because we're doing things that we were not born to do. We're not in our genius, right? So I thought it might be kind of fun just to toss out so we could learn and grow together tonight. What are some of the things that are in your genius zone? Now, let me define genius zone. Genius zone is more than just doing what you love. It's actually doing the things that have the greatest impact to your business's bottom line and aligns you with the goals that you've set for yourselves. Make sense? So there's 3 things. You're doing the thing that really energizes you. It is propelling your profits forward, and it's moving you towards your goals. So let's just toss out a couple. Who can tell me a couple things that you do that are in your genius zone? Yes?
Writing.
Writing. Okay, is there a particular kind of writing?
Like writing blog posts.
Okay, so when you're writing blog posts, you come alive. And is it moving you towards your goals?
Sometimes.
See, it's a good distinction, right? Okay, so we're going to play with this a little bit later. Thank you for playing with me. Yes, Antoinette, right?
Educating.
Okay, give me an example of educating.
Well, one business is I'm an acting specialist, so when I'm with my clients, it's very, very important that they get educated on what's happening, what they're going through, what they need to do to clear.
Okay.
The other business again is educating people on products so they better know how to sell and promote.
Would you say that that's also kind of crossing over with selling and marketing and enrolling people through education?
You mean that I'm selling?
Yes.
I'm selling, yes,
Okay.
but
That's actually what, when we're educating people what we're doing, it's a way of engaging people in what we do. So it's just another way that we attract people in. So does that help you increase your profits? And does it move you towards your goals? Genius zone. Okay, another one over here.
Creating marketing plans instead of educating people that they need to have their marketing plan updated.
Okay,
Selling them on creating marketing.
okay. Move you into profits when you do it?
Oh, gosh, yes.
And move you towards your goals?
Yes.
And how much time do you spend investing in that activity in your business during the week?
Not as much as
Great, so here's a great example, something that's absolutely in his genius zone, but doesn't have enough time to do it as much as he wants. And what gets in the way? I'm jumping ahead, but I want to play this for a second.
sometimes paperwork, sometimes, yeah, paperwork, we'll go with that.
It's Hank, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so who can relate to Hank? You get pulled down into the weeds doing a lot of other stuff that's keeping you from doing the biggest money makers and impactors that you could be doing, right? Who else can relate to that? Only half the room. Everybody else is a multimillionaire with a great lifestyle business. Okay, well, okay.
Writing a business plan.
So when you write a business plan for yourself or for a client?
Well, partial. It's a joint venture, so it's myself.
So this is like a project you have right
It's a
now.
project.
So if you could spend more time writing this business plan and creating this business, you would be able to achieve your goal faster.
Yes,
Great. Now, again, moving you towards a goal, obviously.
absolutely.
Is it going to move you to profit?
Yes,
And how quickly will it move you to profit?
very quick.
How much time do you get to spend on it?
50% right
Is it enough?
now. It could be a bit more.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I want you right now, whether you feel comfortable sharing, I want you to think of that one activity. If you could get into 80% of your time doing it, you know it would propel you forward more. Everybody just take a second. If you don't know what it is, then take this home with you to really connect with it. This is one of your game changers. When you know what, and I always tell people, pick 3 to 5. The 3 to 5 things that you do that really propel you forward. I teach a program called How to Build Your Dream Team. And one of the first things we always do with the participants in this program is we go through this exercise, because this absolutely shines the spotlight on how to prioritize everything else you do to make the best decisions, to invest in our strategies, to pick the best people, and to make sure that you are doing what only you can do to grow the business. So let's do a quick exercise. I want to do part 2 to this, which is, now what do you spend the most time doing during your week? Okay, so just take a couple seconds, right? Were you going to share one?
I was just going to say whether we like it or not.
Whether you like it or not. Now, here's the interesting thing. I'm doing the high-level version of this, the abbreviated version. When I do this in the program, one of the things we do is we go deep into what expands you, the genius zone. What do you do because you have to? And what never gets done, but you know should get done. And when we really see the full spectrum, now we know why we're not exponentially growing, and we know what's not getting enough attention. We can start to make better decisions about how to optimize our business. So can you maybe throw out a couple examples of what you're spending time doing, and you're pretty sure it's not in your genius zone? Managing people.
Oh, just fire them.
Yeah. Just let them all.
So much easier. Simple approach. Exactly.
This is, who else feels that way? That the idea of managing people, or the fact that you are managing people, is a drain for you? I'm going to raise my hand. I actually teach a program called Build Your Dream Team, and it's not my favorite activity. This is why I started teaching this program, and I started helping entrepreneurs learn how to do this, because there's a difference between being a manager and leading. Okay? Yes?
You're completely right. I used to manage a team of salespeople. My wife hated me Thursday nights because I had to call all of them and find out what their numbers were. And it's like, oh, I was just frustrated.
Yeah.
So
So would you say that's one
I
of
fired
your...
myself and started my own company where I didn't have to deal with salespeople.
That was a creative solution.
Worked so much better.
So now, what's an activity that you spend time doing that is not in your genius zone, that you're spending way too much time on?
Email.
Email. Anybody relate to email?
Everybody's like,
Anybody just give it up on email and you're like, someday I'll check it again?
Except for emails from Craig. I answer all of those when you call. They are
Good
filled with-
answer. Linda.
Email, Facebook, Twitter, Google.
That's why I never
Plus,
see you on
wait for
social
more.
media. Yeah, so anybody in the social media, black
Well, you can
hole,
audit all
can I
these.
get that one? Okay. Let's get a couple other examples. What are some other activities you spend way too much time doing?
I'm a psychotherapist, so I spend all my time doing therapy instead of building the.
So working in the business instead of
Yeah.
working on the
But
business.
a lot of it.
Okay, so anybody trapped in that zone where you're having to work too much in the business instead of on the business? Were you
Or
gonna?
just like, for instance, spending too much time like thinking, like, like I'm not going to go on the position. Our practice, we're spending too much time thinking.
Spending too much time typing, okay.
Computer,
What's the administrative minutiae? Yeah, who's getting sucked into the administrative zone? Like, oh my gosh, it's way too much stuff. All right, so these are just some examples, and I know some of you have some of your own private stories that are going on in your head. Yeah, if I could just get rid of that task and that activity, my whole life would be better. So the whole idea behind this first step was decide to optimize. Because when we are putting up with where we're at now, we're going to stay stuck, sustaining exactly what we have. The only way to leave is to first make the decision that you're worth it, that you want to thrive, that you want to have more of a lifestyle, you want to exponentially grow, and you want to impact the world in a better way. So this exercise, what I want you to do is I want you to take this home with you, because I want you to be aware of this for the next week and a half to 2 weeks. How much time are you spending on the things that are burning you out and spinning your wheels, and how much time are you really in your genius zone? It will start to transform how you do everything. So if you get nothing else out of tonight, this will be a breakthrough moment for many people. So once we understand what we're doing that's working and doing that's not working, I have a little practice, and this is exactly what I did. And by the way, I did this before I could ever afford to hire anyone. And that was, I started this mantra of, am I doing something that someone else could do better, faster, or cheaper than me? Notice I didn't say and cheaper than me. It only has to qualify in one of those areas. So here's an example of how that would outpicture for me. I would catch myself doing something, and I would be like, what am I doing? I could pay someone $30 an hour, $40 an hour to do this. I'm worth somewhere between $150 to $1,000 an hour to my business. Why am I doing this myself? When we start to train our brain to talk to us differently about what we're focused on, we begin to realize how much getting ourselves engrossed in certain activities are costing us in the long run. So here's the interesting rationalization. Many of us say, yeah, but I can't afford to pay somebody $30 an hour. I'll do it myself. Anybody do that one?
I used to.
Yeah, you used to. And everybody else is just not going to raise their hands, no matter what I ask. That's okay.
Yes, I stopped doing my own invoicing. It was much better.
Good job.
How's that?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So when we are in that space, that we are rationalizing the choice we're making, because we have told ourselves we can't afford it, we are actually short-circuiting our ability to grow our business. Because what happens is we create a pattern and we perpetuate and buy into the fact that we can't do it differently, and then we buy into that story so deeply that it's very difficult to shift gears and grow exponentially. And by the way, I am really good at a lot of things that are not something I should be doing. And this is where it gets really interesting, because we are so good at the things in our business, right? Who has an activity that you are so good at, but if you're really telling yourself the truth, really someone else could get it off your plate cheaper or faster? Maybe not better, but cheaper or faster. Yeah. One of my clients for many years is a very well-known marketing strategist and consultant down in Orange County. And he used to come to me and say, Melanie, how do you grow so quickly? It was almost like we were in a contest. You know, I would like leap forward and he's like, what are you doing? How are you doing it so fast? And I said, I'm delegating. What are you doing? He said, yeah, I was up at midnight last night doing my website. Sales page, had to get up, I did it myself. So he could do it. He was really good at it. Was it the best use of his time? If he wanted to put his time and attention on things that only he could do to grow. That's the question. That's the game changer, is to keep challenging yourself. I call it ruthless delegation. Write that down. Ruthless delegation is constantly challenging yourself. So if you do this before you ever hire anyone, or who has a team right now, by the way, and you would really like it to get more optimized. You know, you have a team, but you need either more help, you're under-resourced, or you need them to be in more high performance. And who doesn't have a team at all? And who's not going to raise their hand no matter what I ask tonight? Just nod your head. I'll know who you are. Okay. So about half the room has a team, half the room doesn't have a team, half the room is not sure. Or, excuse me, is not sure. So when we go through this process, what we're doing is we're pushing ourselves past the comfort zone, the zone of which we are confident and comfortable with our leverage strategy. So what I'm going to share with you is some of the most typical roles that when I'm working with people in the Build Your Dream team or in a coaching process, that they get off their plates first. Because a lot of times the big question is, well, Melanie, like, I have so much I need to get done. I have so many things I could have someone else help me with. Where do I start? Or if you have a team, maybe you're missing out on some areas that would allow you to be eliminated as the bottleneck. Anybody ever feel like they're the bottleneck in their job? So the first one is a personal assistant. All of you who said email, how many people get bogged down with returning phone calls, wish somebody else could maybe appointment set for you, the administrative minutia, all of these things are things that an assistant can do. Now, have you guys heard of virtual assistants? You guys familiar with that term? Anybody not familiar with the term virtual assistants? So the industry has been transformed by the idea of virtual contractors and support people who can work anywhere in the world. And one of the things that I have found very valuable is that most virtual assistants can do a lot of different things to free you up. I actually, and I'll share this with you later, I have a gift to give you guys later if you'd like it, which is, it's called 101 Ways to Triple Your Income and Time Off. And it is a list of 101 things that I've learned how to delegate. And some of them are going to rock your world. You're going to be like, oh, I can have someone else do that for me? Whoa, I didn't know that was possible. Some of them are going to be things that you're like, I really should get this off my plate. I've never put